After watching that clip, you have to be disgusted with Joe Biden. Not only as a wife or a first lady, just as a human being. She sees the cognitive decline of her husband, who happens to be the president of the United States. She knows what's going on, and she treats him like a 4-year-old. And this isn't the first time we've seen this. This is directly after the debate. It's almost like, Joe, listen, just stand there quietly, and we're going to give you a juice box or some ice cream when this is all over. It's repulsive to watch. Not like this show, because this is Tim. This is Get Off My Lawn, the mad ramblings of a Gen Xer. Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe, all that fun stuff. Don't forget to hit the notification thingy so when we get new videos out, you get that notification. Oh, this was after the debate, and like I've said previously, and I don't want to harp on this too much because I want to get into, I have to read it, I want to get into the Emergency National Security Supplements Appropriation Act of 2024, the bill that Joe Biden talks about all the time, which is going to fix all the problems that we have with immigration in this country. There's just some caveats. People always go, Tim, did you read the bill? Well, actually, this time I did, and I took notes. I wrote down notes. But let's talk about the state of the Democrats. They are going gaga. They are going crazy. They are crapping in their pants just as much as Joe Biden does on a normal day. Hey-oh, sorry, I threw in a sound effect. It's disgusting to watch because they propped this guy up 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever you want to call it. And they hit him in the basement, and they blamed COVID. And then when they brought him out of the basement, things just didn't go well either way. Even when he came out of the basement, it was just as bad. And now we see the cognitive decline even worse, but it's his handlers that are really starting to bug me. There's been multiple reports now that Joe is really only president from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Anything after that, they have an issue with him, either speaking or going anywhere or doing anything or being in front of anyone, because evidently his decline is so rapid after those hours. I believe it's called sunsetting when you have dementia. That when the sun goes down, your cognitive abilities worsen. I believe it's called sunsetting. If I remember from my days in psychology, I think that's what it's referred to as. But it's just one of these things that, how do you not see this? And how not for what's best for the nation, just say, Joe, you need to stop. You need to go away. Don't go away mad. Just go away. You're not going to go away mad because you're not going to remember anything that you're doing anyways. And there's little subtle hints that even the White House is protecting him more and more. Has anyone noticed when he gets off of Air Force One now? He doesn't get off of Air Force One in the front of the plane on that big steps where he has all the issues. He's now getting off at the back of the plane, where it has the little steps. We don't see him for days. He goes to Camp David. He goes on vacation. They used to laugh at Trump saying he takes more vacation days than any president ever. Well, Joe Biden said to him, here, hold my beer. Because Joe takes so many vacation days. I think he takes more vacation days than he actually is done. I don't know. He is done. But I don't want to keep picking on Joe. I really don't. Because it's sad. And it's the ability to see this decline and to see it on the world stage and see our enemies. But then what's the alternative? Everyone talks about, well, we'll go out and get Michelle Obama. Oh, Jesus. First of all, this is the same first lady that came out, I believe it was in the second term, gave an interview basically where she said she hated America. She hates what America stands for. If I was Donald Trump, I would just play that clip over and over again. But then she wants to be president because they think it's going to be another 4 more years of Barack. And Barack wasn't that great. There was a lot of issues with Barack Obama. There was tons of issues. I mean, so do you really want, and technically these last 4 years has even been more of an extension of Obama outside of the immigration issues, because he was the deporter in chief, Obama was. But his economic policies, his foreign policies, from leading from behind, this is all out of the Obama playbook. So, and she has come out and said, Michelle Obama, that she is not gonna, she doesn't want to run. She doesn't want to help up the Obamas because of what happened with Hunter Biden and sleeping with his dead brother's wife and getting her addicted to cocaine or crack. How it's more than it's more than a soap opera. It's a melodrama. They buy The Bidens. I mean, can we just leave it? Can we just leave it at that? It's a melodrama. What are you going to also roll out? Gavin Newsom? You have to say one thing. When he debated Ron DeSantis held up the poop chart. Here's the poop chart right here. And I loved it because it was brown all over the place. And it just was the areas of shit all over San Francisco. Literally, it was the feces chart. Gavin Newsom can't even run his own. I mean, he couldn't run the city of San Francisco. He can't run the state of California. He was given his first job by Willie Brown, who was also the same Willie Brown that slept with Kamala Harris. just throwing that out there. But Gavin Newsom shouldn't even be, he should not be in politics. You look at him, he should be selling used Buicks. That's what Gavin Newsom should be. He is he's a used car salesman. He's a snakeskin salesman, whatever you want to call him, but that's what he is. But then the whole problem with this is you have to bypass Kamala Harris. Do we really want the Joker speaking to world leaders? Do we even want her speaking in general? Because she doesn't know how to actually speak to a person. I think she's a robot. I really am beginning to think she's a robot. That's why I'm staying here in the bunker. Not telling anyone where the bunker is, but that's why I'm staying here in the bunker. So you have to continue to roll out Joe Biden, because the alternatives right now are at this late in the game, at this late in the stage of the game, you're going to have a broken convention. Because you are so late in this game right now. It's almost like the Bidens are daring the Democratic Party to oust them. It really is, and it just befuddles me. It's a long day. Yeah, there's rum in there. There's so many things that are wrong with this country right now. There's so many different directions that we're going in, and it just kills me. And a couple of weeks back, of course, getting my notes out. A couple of weeks back, of course, Biden signed that executive order in reference to the border and about the number of percentages of people and gotaways and things at the border. And if this reaches a certain percentage over a period of time, then the border is going to be shut down. Everyone was like, oh my God, this is awesome. No, it's not. Because he basically took this out of the Emergency National Security Supplement Appropriation Act of 2024. This was the wonderful bipartisan bill. And we're going to get into it in a moment. But this all stems back to January of 17, where Trump issued that executive order. I'm reading it again, which is banning travel from 7 predominantly Muslim countries entering the United States. The order, widely referred to as a travel ban or a Muslim ban by certain people, of course. The order faced immediate legal challenges in multiple federal courts and conjunctions, and it all started with the challenge from Hawaii. And basically what happened was, at the end of the day, Supreme Court looked at this and said the Chief Justice Roberts' opinion was, he wrote the majority opinion, stating that the president has broad authority to restrict entry into the country for national security reasons. The court held that the travel ban was within the president's statutory authority and did not violate the constitutional establishment clause. I don't know what that means, but that sounds pretty bad. But it sounds pretty good. But this is what really affected everything with immigration. This would have allowed Trump to do what he did to limit immigration. So when Biden comes into office, he lifts all these executive orders. He uses executive orders to lift all the things that Trump does, the Remain in Mexico policy, everything else. And all of a sudden, we have reached this moment in time where the border is just bleeding profusely. People are just pouring in left and right. And it's interesting, and of course you have the app, the unlawful app that the Biden administration likes to use. I might as well just call them the Biden-Obama administration, which is the app itself is probably unconstitutional. And so now asylum claims are down, which I find interesting. Asylum claims are down because you had to reach a national average to exceed 4,000 per day over 7 consecutive days, and it may not exceed 5,000 encounters a day. I should say asylum claims a day. Now, what happened was asylum claims now have dropped exponentially, but encounters have gone up. And the encounter is when basically Border Patrol is running after these people. Asylum claims is when people come in and say, I am going to claim asylum because I am being politically persecuted and I will be murdered or have great bodily harm to myself or my family if I'm not allowed in the country. But then you interview these people 5 minutes later and they're like, well, I'm here to send money back home to my country because I need to make some cash. So it's quick how it's just interesting how quick it changes with these people. So the emergency authority provision, which was the bill that was created, and it was Border Emergency Authority, which allows the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, to expel immigrants or migrants, what do you want to say, from the U.S. border under extraordinary immigration circumstances. However, like I said, it set clear thresholds. Now, this is when I was reading the bill. The DHS secretary can use the authority if the average number of encounters exceeds 4,000 per day over 7 consecutive days and must not exceed 5,000 per day. The authority can be suspended by the president for up to 45 days in a year if it is deemed in the national interest. So right now, according to what happened with the, if we want to go back to this 2017 bill, the 2017 travel ban, it basically gave the president wide authority to shut down the border if needed, if it was deemed necessary. This bill limits the authority of the president, and he only can now suspend immigration for up to 45 days in a year. While the travel ban gave him executive privilege to do all this, this new bill would take and say to the president, listen, you could do this once, and you could do this for 45 days, and that's it. And that's it. Now, what I was also reading, the time limits and judicial review. This was interesting. The use of emergency authority is capped at 270 days in the first year, 225 days in the second, and 180 days in the third. This ensures that such powers will not be used indefinitely. So no matter what, you are capped. This emergency authority then by DHS is capped to 270 days the first year, 225 days in the second year, and 180 days in the third year. 365 days in a year, if I'm not mistaken, correct? if I'm not correct. But additionally, judicial review is limited, granting sole jurisdiction to U.S. district courts from the District of Columbia, thus centralizing and overseeing and preventing broad judicial challenges. So basically, all challenges have to go to the U.S. District Court of Columbia. And we know who runs that court. We know who runs that kangaroo court. Now, asylum claims in this bill is very interesting the way it has. The bill raises a standard for initiating asylum claims. Now, the key is how they use the verbiage. It used to be a significant possibility of harm. So if you came in here and said, I have significant possibility of harm, they're changing the verbiage in this wonderful bill that was going to fix everything to a reasonable possibility of persecution. Not of harm. Now it's reasonable possibility of persecution, which is a very broad and open definition. So there's no longer a need for a credible fear. You just have to be persecuted. I get persecuted every day just for being so wonderful. But now there's no longer a need for a credible fear. You just have to have a reasonable possibility of persecution. Now, all these provisions, they collectively aim to ensure the president's ability to unilaterally impose a travel ban restriction is more regulated and subject to specific conditions and limitations. Let me read that again to you. Unilaterally imposes broad immigration restrictions for more regulated and subject to specific conditions and limitations. This is in stark contrast to the travel ban and what would happen against Trump versus Hawaii. And I love it because they say this approach seeks to balance national security concerns with the need to due process and oversight in immigration enforcement. So basically, you're just saying you don't have to have a credible fear of being harmed in your own country. You just have to have a reasonable doubt of persecution, and you can come in. Everything's hunky-dory. I wonder how many rooms I could build in this bunker. I laugh. I chuckle. I worked with someone a couple years back, early 2000s, when I was in telecommunications, early 2000s, way in the 2000s. And a gentleman's name was Larry Hall, and he owned an ISP, which was an internet service provider. And in the early 2000s, there was tons of ISPs, and this guy owned an ISP, and I was his client representative for a major telecommunications company, and it was great. He was a great client. I became very friendly with him. I went to a bunch of events that he had at the ISP itself. And one day we were sitting down and we were talking, and he had an idea. And he was like, you know what I want to do? He goes, I want to build luxury fallout shelters, like bunkers. I want to build bunkers. And I said, well, that's kind of a cool idea. This is early 2000s, so this is the bleeding edge of the internet. So there was no crazy ideas. And then a couple of years back, I saw an article about Larry Hall. And I said, oh, Larry Hall, I wonder if that was the same guy, Larry Hall, that was in Florida. Yeah, and it was. And he bought missile silos. I'm not gonna tell you where, like in my bunker, I ain't telling you where. He bought missile silos and he converted them into luxury bunkers. And I'm like, what a brilliant idea. Now, he's been doing this for a few years now. This isn't new. He's been on Fox News. He's been on other places. But I just thought it was interesting that, you had the acorn of an idea back in the early 2000s, way early 2000s, and it really blossomed into a full-fledged project and business idea. And it just shows that, the state of the mind of the individual for the United States, that you have people that are securing he's already sold out the bunker. I think the smallest one starts at like $500,000, if not $1 million. So he's already sold that. He's already working on building another one. I laugh because I had another friend in Florida. Yeah, I actually had friends who wanted to buy a battleship. Him and I literally went to Pensacola, Florida, and we looked at a battleship. He was going to buy a battleship. And he was going to use, it's kind of the same thing that Larry Hall wanted to do. He was going to build it as a survival system. And I laughed, though, because we got there and he's looking at the battleship and he's like, Tim, this battleship's only like $100,000. And I remember looking at him. And to this day, he still yells at me because he's like, Tim, you ruined my $1 million idea. I ruined it with reality. I said, yes, this battleship's only $100,000. How much is it going to cost in fucking gas to run this thing? Well, that ended the battleship idea. This is Tim from the bunker, bringing you another episode of Get Off My Lawn, the Mad Ramblings of a Gen Xer. Make sure you follow us. Make sure you like. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you ring the bell. Get your notifications. All that fun stuff. Let's grow the channel. We actually have a nice following with the podcast, which is the same episode as this. People are like, you should record the podcast and put it on YouTube and Rumble and all that. So that's what we're doing right now. We're recording the podcast. So make sure. And as always, like we say, the truth shall always set you free. This is Tim. This is Get Off My Lawn, the Mad Realms of a Gen Xer. And I'm out of here.